people at different levels. And this thing I noticed in 2005 after the terrible earthquake we had in the northern region in Kashmir. I can give you several examples, but when we went to Pakistan in September, somebody from here gave us, I don't want to identify it, but somebody gave us earrings to sell them in Pakistan to help the local economy. We went to a goldsmith, we got 39,000 rupees, and we gave those to somebody who was taking medicines and some other basic needs to Mustafa, the southern region that we just showed us. And I came across several such stories that people were organizing, these charity missions, and that kind of thing all over the country. And that was a kind of different Pakistan, different kind of humanity that I really experienced, and it strengthened my own sort of belief in the basic goodness of human beings, especially in the terrible. As a student of history, I feel that maybe we become more mellow, and when we go through all these tragedies. And you might have noticed that when you travel, people are more human. When you go to the hospitals, people are more human. When you go to the funerals, people are more mellow. So sadly, in our part of the world, in our part of South Asia, in Pakistan, there have been several tragedies. I mean, you might have heard stories about 1947, the migrations. We talk about bloodshed, we talk about rapes, we talk about all those kind of miseries and brutalities that all the four communities committed against one another. You also come across stories where people help, where people protected, where people make sure that these people in this kind of situation are able to make it across the border. Same Pakistan kind of situation happening all over. So this is what I noticed, and that really, strengthened, because like many of you, I've been very upset about things in Pakistan. There are what you call million mutinies happening in the country. Shia Sunni thing, Muslim, non-Muslim thing, which happen to be non-Muslim. And remember, not many Pakistanis know that there are 7 million Hindus in Pakistan, and there are 7 million Christians in Pakistan. And then also, ethnic warfare, which goes on in the largest city, Karachi. And then this geopolitics, 38 nations fighting in Afghanistan, and all the repercussions. And now war has spread through our tribal areas, and not just tribal areas. Sawat, like many of you, all of you, raised many questions. Because I always went to Sawat with my family for holidays, since my school days, college days. And I couldn't believe that Sawat would go that way. So all these kind of issues, and then the flood come along. And this is where I discovered that kind of Pakistan, where people reach out to one another and have fun. So other than these stories, I mean, I came back and next day, because I think 19th of September, some of my friends had already organized a 55-mile bike ride to raise money for flood victims in Pakistan. So we do it in summer, and generally we do it for schools. So this time we did it for Pakistan. And there was one lady, one colleague, who works for the OUPakSoc. She had already undergone her 3rd heart operation, and Cheryl was doing this 55-mile ride with us on the bike to raise money for those flood victims in Pakistan. So I don't believe in this clash of culture or whatever. But anyway, other than this part of humanity dimension, I go back to history. Mark Kimball is a very good friend of mine. He is an American who studied at Berkeley and did most of his research on the Indus Valley. He teaches in Wisconsin. He has a website. Maybe you could visit Mark on Google Indus Valley civilization. I keep asking him, what happened to this civilization? 6,000 years ago, Indus Valley civilization was a bustling civilization. It covered more area than ancient Egyptian civilization and Mesopotamian civilization put together. This is the place where brick was invented. Daanish showed us the map. South of Kosovo, all the way to the Arabian Sea, and the east of Kosovo, all the way to Burma. You didn't have those domes or those facilities that you could build your houses with. So you had to invent something. So brick was invented in the Indus Valley. Lots of things that happened. Sanitation system, the priest kings. What happened to this civilization? First thing, we don't know the language. We haven't been able to decipher the language of ancient Indus Valley civilization. thousands of seals, but the land hasn't been recycled. Until the 1920s, historians believed that Indus Valley civilization was an appendage of Mesopotamian or Middle Eastern civilization. In 1920s, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were excavated. And the credit goes to this chap, Sir John Marshall. He always believed that Indus Valley or ancient India had its own civilization. And this is where they discovered these bricks in Harappa, which actually East India Company people were using to build the railway tracks. And then somebody told them, these are the rare artifacts from archaeology. And that's how those bricks were. And then Mohenjo-daro was even dated 620. When this time I went to Pakistan, maybe I got an answer to this question, what's happening to Indus Valley civilization? River Indus, Sindh, the Daanish river. Maybe this is what happened. I mean, historians believe in multiplicity of factors. We don't have single factor explanation to any major historical event. Maybe other than floods. You believe that maybe there was an earthquake. Maybe there was an epidemic. Generally, people thought floods and the arrival or the invasion of the aliens from the north. And local people, maybe they were Dravidian people, either were enslaved, domesticated, or were pushed further south into the interior of India. So my feeling is that this is a very complex relationship between ecology and human population. And this is an ongoing struggle, and this is an ongoing battle that we have seen. People ask me questions about why Pakistan has been so turbulent. Well, I don't justify that turbulence. Like you, I desire for peace. But why the history and politics of Indus Valley is so different from the history and the politics that you come across in Adnan, in Bengal, in northern regions, Gangetic regions. One, of course, the ecology, the Indus water system, and second, history, and third, geography, our location. If you look at the history of the subcontinent, I mean, history is a very recent subject. History writing is a very recent subject. But if you happen to read Rig Veda, the earliest book, the earliest Hindu scripture, this is part of our heritage. And this was a book that was composed as an oral tradition, 1200 BC, around 1200 BC. But it was written down much later in Sanskrit. There were 1200 lyrics. It's all about river Indus. It's all about this area that we have been talking about this evening. So this thing has been, so there have been invasions, there have been immigrations, there have been all kinds of ecological changes, positive, negative. And this is our thoughts. Maybe we have to live with it. Maybe we have to revisit our history. Maybe we have to revisit our ecology. Maybe we have to follow some of those things that other people are doing. And that's how our history has been so turbulent. Now, when people talk about Pakistan and the problems of governance, and of course there are several issues that we are confronted with. And people talk about different solutions, maybe more democratization, maybe more empowerment, maybe better educational system. All those things are very important. But I think our analysis remains very state-centric. My submission is that perhaps we need to strengthen the forces in the areas of civil society. When I did my book, one of my early books in 1997 here, it was on civil society. Many people, who specialized on India, Pakistan, they felt